SIA Philomen Raj, MSc, MPhil PhD, retired head Department of Physics, Madras Christian College, Tambaram, Chennai. He is presently serving as a guest lecturer in Loyola College, Nungambakkam, Chennai. He has a teaching experience of 35 years in Madras Christian College for UG and PG students. His field of research is nuclear physics and he's presented about 30 papers in symposia organized by Baba Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. He has guided 50 MPhil students and about 100 MSc students in their projects. He has authored practical physics books for MSc and BSc courses. He is presently engaged in writing a book on nuclear physics for Printhias Hall, India.
Welcome to UGC lecture series in physics. We shall continue with nuclear and particle physics. We have been discussing about types of detectors used for detection of nuclear radiation. Now we shall continue with one more detector. So we shall be discussing two things today: scintillation detector and semiconductor detectors. Scintillation detector we have only just one type, and then semiconductor detectors we have several types. So what is scintillation detector? It is for detecting alpha, beta and also gamma. Any type of radiation it will be able to detect. And here what is the principle? When energetic particles strikes zinc sulfur, zinc ZNS, zinc sulfide, that is a phosphor, it is called a phosphor. Scintillation occurs like flashes in the tube light. So in a tube light, how do you get that light brightness? In the tube light we have got electrons on the, we have got filament on the two sides, and the filament will be emitting electron. These electrons will be randomly moving up and down. Why it is moving up and down? Because it has got the alternating potential, positive and negative alternating. Therefore it will move fast this direction, and as they move they collide with the glass tube. That glass tube in a tube light, the glass tube, the inner coating is ZNS. It has got zinc sulfate coating is there. So it is called that material is ZNS is called phosphor. Any material which gives light scintillation is called phosphor. Like as we said, flashes in the tube light. Here not only ZNS, there are many materials which will emit light when charged particle falls on it. In the tube light, electrons are charged particles which are falling and you get light emission. So it is dark initially and then it becomes bright. So similarly, different materials are used in a color television. So here it is emitting, in a tube light it is emitting white light. So in a color television different phosphors are used, each one is giving different color. Basically we got the primary colors red, blue, green. So it will emit red, blue or green. Combination of the three will give different colors. That is for a color television. So here we will continue with this. So the scintillation is amplified. So a particle comes, enters, and it strikes the phosphor, for example ZNS, and then the scintillation is amplified using photomultiplier. So that amplification we will discuss. So the scintillator, this part is scintillator plus photomultiplier gives you scintillation counter. So it will be multiplied, and for every particle there is a scintillation, that is scintillation is multiplied, amplified, and then that is counted. So it becomes a scintillation counter. So we will go for the construction. This is the tube. We are talking about that photomultiplier scintillation detector. So the particle is entering in this direction, the particle is entering, and what we have here is, this is the scintillator. This is the scintillator. That, for example, ZNS is a scintillator. So when the particle strikes, it will immediately emit one scintillation, for one photon will be emitted. And then here we have photocathode. So that photon, when it falls on photocathode, it is like any material which emits electrons, when light is incident. That is photoelectric effect. So when a light falls on certain materials, for one photon, one electron is emitted. So that is photoelectric effect. So that is called photocathode. Photocathode. So here initially the particle may be any type of particle, charge alpha, beta, gamma, any particle. When it strikes, it gives a scintillation. For example, this is a phosphor, ZnS, one example of that. Scintillator. So that will be emitting only photon, light. That light, when it falls on the photocathode, it will give electron. So it is converted, whatever particle was incident, now it has become electron. Now this electron, this is connected to negative of the potential. And this is what we have drawn here, they are called diodes. So we have written here, diodes. Diodes. What are diodes? They are only positive potential, increasing positive potential. So suppose this is at zero potential, maybe this is at 10 volt, this is at plus 10 volt, plus 20 volt, plus 30 volt, 40, goes on like that, increasing. So when it is in the increasing order, we call it as a diode. Maybe it's dynamic, it's not, it's changing, the potential is changing. And finally, after we have just shown a few, after many diodes, it will go and strike one last diode. That last diode we call it as anode. All of them are anodes, but they are at different potentials. We call it as diode, and falls on the anode. So from the cathode, it has come to anode. So the idea is, any particle which enters, it will strike the scintillator. Example ZnS, that will emit a photon. That photon strikes the photocathode, and it emitted electron. This electron being negatively charged, it will be attracted towards the positive potential, and it will be reflected to and fro. Finally, it will reach the anode, and from here there will be a pulse. For every potential there will be a pulse, which can be counted with maybe digital counting, that can be done. So now we will go to the explanation part. We get the glass vacuum tube houses photocathode. Already we have seen it has got photocathode, diodes and anode. The scintillator is outside. So inside the glass vacuum tube, we have got photocathode, diodes and anodes. So the particles strike phosphor, that is a scintillating material. It will strike that, and atoms are excited and de-excite. So that is a scintillation. See, for a scintillation material, how do you get light emitting? For example, what we said in a tube light, when electron falls, that tube light becomes bright, because there is coating, phosphor coating. Phosphor coating is there. Phosphor is general word for any material which will give light, coating. So that material, what it does, when electron falls, the atoms are excited. It is not ionized, it is excited, and it will fall down. When it falls down, it will emit a light. So atoms excited and de-excite by photon emission. That is the work of the scintillator. Now these photons, that is a light energy, enter the photomultiplier tube and strike the photocathode. Already we stated about the photocathode, which is a photoelectric emission. It's a photoelectric effect. When light falls on it, one electron is produced. These electrons strike the photocathode. So the photoelectrons are produced. Now these are attracted towards the positive potential, attracted towards the positive. So there are number of anodes, they are called diodes, arranged at increasing positive potential. Diode is not very much different from anode. When the potential is in increasing order, we call it as diodes. So one end, first part is cathode, and we have got diodes, and the last one will be anode. That's what we have been explaining. We will go. This diodes have CS coating. What is cesium? Is an element, cesium coating for secondary electron emission. So here we have got cesium coating, where the work function will be very small. Work function for CS is small. What do you mean by work function? Energy required to remove the electron. Any material, on the surface we have got electrons. Atoms have got electrons. That has to be removed. For some material, it is not very difficult to remove. Now for cesium, the work function is small. That is called work function, energy required to remove the electron. That is small, and therefore this Cs is used for secondary electron emission. So when an electron strikes here, this one, see, because it has got Cs coating, it will emit another electron. So instead of one electron, two electrons will be coming here, and here it will be multiplied after striking the second one, then third one. So it will have multiple electrons. So this one electron has become more and more number of electrons, and finally a large number of electrons will strike here. So the number of electrons that will strike, it will depend on the material used here. Here Cs is able to give secondary electrons, and also number of diodes. Here we have just shown in figure few of them, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of them we have, 5 of them we have shown, and it can be long. In that case, all of them will get reflected and will get good multiplication of electrons. So electrons are accelerated towards the diodes because it is increasing potential. This will come here. Normally from the photocathode, electron will be emitted in any direction, but once it comes here, because this has got positive potential, that is the nearest positive potential, so it will be attracted towards that. Then it will get secondary electron will be emitted, and it will be moving towards a greater potential, this one. So because the potential is going on increasing, electron is a negatively charged particle, it will be attracted towards the positive. So electron is accelerated towards diodes. Large multiplication of electron, that is called cascade of electrons we get. Last diode is collector of electron. This is also a diode. The last one will be collecting all the electrons which have been multiplied and arriving at this point. So that is called anode. Now this will produce a current pulse, because we are not shown the diagram. So this will be actually in a battery. This must be connected to negative, this must be connected to positive with maybe an ammeter or milliammeter. So whenever a pulse enters, it will give a large current pulse, which will give a voltage pulse, and maybe the ammeter will show a pulse. So the current pulse produces voltage pulse, and the pulse is counted. So this is the basic principle of a scintillation detector, and also along with the photomultiplier. So the height of the pulse is proportional to incident energy. So that's naturally it must be proportional to incident energy. So the height of the pulse is proportional to incident energy, the current pulse. Now scintillators have fluorescence or phosphorescence. So when you say scintillators, is a general word, scintillator. Scintillator is when a charged particle falls, it will emit light, a spark of light. That is general word, scintillator. That scintillation can be fluorescence or phosphorescence. Two things. When you say fluorescence, it will be very short duration, 10⁻⁻8 second. So when the particle strikes, on that spot we get like a lightning. It appears and vanishes. The other one, certain materials have got phosphorescence. Here the electrons will be excited, and it will take long time to come back, maybe minutes, and then they will emit the light slowly. So like for example, we have got radiant watches, where when you go to the cinema theatre, you will be able to see that letters. So it will be a green color, radiant material. So that will be a phosphorescence material. It is a phosphor, where during the maybe in the tube light or sunlight, it gets all the material, the phosphorescence material will get excited, and they will de-excite slowly. So they will get excited and they will de-excite slowly. Suppose you take that radiant watch, put near 100 watts bulb for some time, and then take it inside a dark room. Then you will find the brightness, and the brightness will go on decreasing. Maybe it will take some 2 or 3 minutes. So that is called delayed phosphorescence. Delayed fluorescence is called phosphorescence. So this is occurring instantaneously. Here this will take some time, like radiant watches, and also we have got some statues also. It will be light green color statues. They have got phosphorescent material. It will take. So the scintillators will have both, either fluorescence or phosphorescence. Now for alpha particle, they found that Z and S, that is a phosphor material, Z and S was suitable for alpha. Now they found that for beta and gamma, naphthalene crystals are suitable. So it is only different type of phosphor we can use, and accordingly we can get for different particles, either phosphor or fluorescent material. Already we have described. So we have got different materials, and depending on that any particle can be detected. So what are the advantages? So for this one, by using different crystals, all particles can be detected. So a scintillation detector, if it is using particular, for example, it is using ZNS, it will be suitable for alpha. Now if you change the scintillator, it can be used for any type of detection. So it can be used for, it will be based only on the selection of crystals. The pulse height is used for energy analysis. So height of the pulses is known, therefore we can analyze the energy. What is the energy of the particle? So we can calibrate for this energy from known source. We can calibrate for this velocity or this energy of beta particle, known energy. This is the current that you get. So for different sources you plot a graph, then you will know we can be calibrated. For an unknown particle, we can find out from the pulse height, we can find out what is the energy. So it will be used for energy analysis. This GM counter, Geiger-Müller counter, it cannot be used for energy analysis because that is only counting. There we get the multiplication, and which is saturated. In the GM counter we got the saturation region. So it is saturated, and therefore even a small pulse will give, even a small energy particle will give same pulse. There it is meant for counting, here it is meant for counting as well as energy analysis. Now we will go to a slightly different type of so we have got semiconductor detectors. This is one type of detector. So we have been discussing various types of detectors. Now this is semiconductor detectors. Now this is for detecting ionizing radiation. Any ionizing radiation we can use this. And what is the principle and working? So in a semiconductor, ionizing radiation produces ion pairs. In a semiconductor, when a ionizing radiation enters, it will produce ion pairs. We will come to that, how it happens. Ion pairs are produced. Due to electric field, current pulse is produced, which is proportional to energy. So we have got a semiconductor. When a particle enters, we get ion pairs, positive and negative. The positive will be going towards the cathode, and the negative will be going towards the anode. Therefore, as the particle enters, one pulse will be there due to the electric field, applied field, that is positive and negative potential. So due to electric field, current pulse is produced, which is proportional to energy. Now what are the materials that you can use? We said the semiconductor. We will just see why we need to choose semiconductor. Materials can be conductors. Any material you take, it can be conductor, semiconductor or dielectrics. Semiconductor or dielectric. So when you say conductor, for example metal is a conductor. It's a very good conductor, like all we use for wires. Any metal is a good conductor. Now if we take germanium or silicon, they are semiconductors, half conductors. If we take plastic, it is a dielectric. Plastic is a dielectric. When you say dielectric, they are not conductors. Current cannot pass through that. Now here in a semiconductor, as the word says, partially it can pass through. Now we will see why it is so in a semiconductor. See, electrons are in a valence orbit or valence band. So I will just explain this part. See, if we take, for example, if we take any material, maybe aluminum we take as a metal, you take the last filled electron is free electron. It will be able to, it is in the valence band. It is in the valence band. That is the K. We have got any element will have first shell, second shell, third shell, K, L, M shells. So the last electron is in the valence band. It's in the filled up band. So it's called in the valence band. Now some energy, suppose I want to conduct, some energy is required to remove that electron. If you remove that electron from that orbit, then it is allowed to conduct. It will be freely conducting. That is, it will go and go towards the positive of the battery, positive of the battery. Once it is removed, we say it is in conduction band. It is able to conduct. So there are two bands, valence band when it is bound, and when you are removing it, it becomes conduction band. Electrons are in valence band normally, valence orbit, or we call it as valence band. Some energy is required to free the electron and make it conduct. We have to free the electron to make it conduct, and we take it to the conduction band. It's called, once it comes out, it's called conduction band. So there is some energy required, that is called energy gap. So here we are written as VB, valence band. So the electron is bound in the atom. Here the electron is removed from the atom so that it moves towards the positive of the battery. So it is conduction band. The difference between the two, the energy difference between the two, we call it as gap, energy gap, EG. Energy gap between the valence band and conduction band. We have three materials, we said: conductors, semiconductors, and dielectrics. For conductors, these two will be together. EG will be 0, which means conduction band and valence band will be together. So that is why when you apply, we take a wire, it easily conducts. The electrons are easily moving towards the positive of the potential, because this gap is not there for a conductor. If you take a dielectric, this gap will be very, very large. That EG will be large. This you have to elevate this there. So you require large energy to remove. That is why plastic, for example, it's a good dielectric. It will not conduct. It will not conduct electricity. Now for semiconductor, this gap will be small. We are using semiconductor. We will just go further to see what advantage we have in semiconductors. So for conductor, EG is almost 0. That is what we have just explained. And so there is current even without radiation. So suppose you take a metal connected to battery, even without any radiation, because our aim is to find out the radiation. Now even without any radiation, this metal will give current. So there is no point in using that. So for conductor, EG is almost 0, and so there is current even without radiation. Therefore it becomes useless as a detector of radiation. Now for a dielectric, EG is very large, gap is very large, and so no current even with radiation. So if you take dielectric, for example plastic or glass connected to battery, wait for some radiation to occur. Even when the radiation falls, because the energy gap is large, it will not give any current. That also becomes useless. We are interested in finding the presence of radiation, nuclear radiation. Now for germanium example, it is a semiconductor. For germanium, Eg equal to 0.7 electron volt, 0.7 eV, small 0.7 eV. Thus for Ge, for germanium, there is current when there is radiation. So it is, gap is crucial, small thing. First there won't be any current, but when there is a radiation, it will show a current. That is what we want. There should not be any current without radiation. When there is radiation, there is current. That is what happening here. So we get ionized, this is the crystal, semiconductor crystal. For example, it is germanium. Let us take germanium or silicon. Both are semiconductors. We get negative, positive connected. So we are waiting for the output. There won't be any current initially. When a radiation falls on it, we get positive and negative ions created, and we get the current flowing. So the semiconductor crystal has electrodes connected to potential, as we have just seen in the figure. The radiation causes electron hole pair. So the ions are attracted towards the negative and the electrons will be attracted to the positive. So the ions are attracted towards terminals, respective terminals, due to electric field and causes a current pulse. So the pulse is proportional to energy. So only when the particle enters there will be a current. So we have been discussing about the principle of a scintillation detector and semiconductor detector and the advantages of these things. Next, semiconductor is only a starting. We have got another type of semiconductor detector, PN junction diode detector. So we will be continuing with that in the next class, and we will have few questions for the day. Explain what is phosphorescence and fluorescence. We said about the time. This is a longer time and this is shorter time. So what are conduction and valence bands? Once you understand the diagram, you will be able to explain. So the second question is what are conduction and valence bands? So once you understand the diagram, you will be able to explain. So we shall continue with other type of semiconductor detectors in the next session. Thank you.